Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakha, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone, and enough respect to the brothers that they're pushing and spreading the gospel of Yahweh Hashem Shai to the four corners of the world. Now, through the spin of power of Yahweh Hashem Shai, I just want to do a quick lesson on the book of Isaiah, the 34th chapter, and Lord willing, this be edifying. And hey, real quick, we see the Lord Yahweh Hashem Shai working, the whole conflict between Israel and Iran. This is a whole prophecy, but that's why it's fitting to go into the book of Isaiah, the 34th chapter, because the beginning of Babylon's destruction comes, or at least the beginning of Esau's destruction comes from what? That fight that's going on, right? The war that's going on right now between Amalek and Persia. So the book of Isaiah, the 34th chapter, it says, "Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all that came forth of it." Right? And this is a precept to even the book of Joel, 3rd chapter and the 9th verse. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up," right? And this is our job as prophets of Yahweh Shemir Shai. Through the Spirit, we incite these nations to go to war, right? Because the establishment of the kingdom of heaven can only come from their destruction. That's why every righteous Israelite that looks forward to righteousness being established should pray to Yahweh Shemir Shai and to what? And to yearn for these heathens to fight amongst themselves and destroy each other so that the kingdom of heaven can be established. All right, Jeremiah chapter 50, "Declare ye among the nations and publish and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not." That's why we go out in the highways and the byways. That's why we do videos. And that's why we speak plainly, right? And say Babylon is America, and we break down all these nations in prophecy and let them know that their actions are what? In accordance with the will of Yahweh Shemir Shai. Okay? Yeah, you ain't supposed to be out here praying for this world to be healed like these Christian churches do. They go in the churches and they pray for America. They pray for the Lord to take away war from men. But a righteous man, a true man of the Lord, a true servant of the Lord, would want the will of the Heavenly Father to come to pass, which is for these nations, right, to be gathered and to come down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, so that the Lord can release His anger upon them. Okay, so verse 1: "Come, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord Yahweh is upon all the nations, and His fury upon all the army." Right? If you're not in the service of Yahweh Shemir Shai, you are someone the Lord has indignation against. That's why even you Israelites out there that aren't for Yahweh Shemir Shai, that are not hot for the Lord, you are you are part of the this entity that the Lord hates, that the Lord plans to destroy. So it says, "All upon all nations His fury upon all their armies. He has utterly destroyed them. He has delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood," right? Spread. Their blood shall be spread upon the mountains. So the Lord is going to do a lot of killing out here, and we see this judgment only if there is dark and gloomy days. Only we see these judgments come to pass when there are wars and rumors of wars. "And all the hosts of heavens shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all the hosts shall fall down as the leaf falleth from off the vine, and as the fallen fig from the fig tree, right? And this talks about the missiles being deployed, right? Not just the nuclear missiles, but really all the missiles that get used in a war. When they are gathered down and the Lord destroys them, right? When the ultimate destruction comes, it's gonna be, let's see right now. It's gonna look like this. Let's do. Right? You see the heavens folding like a scroll. As a matter of fact, let's see this. Nice. Let me open. Right? You see the heavens folding like a scroll. This is a beautiful image right here. That's exactly what the prophet saw. Right? And the means by which the Lord destroys these nations, it won't just come through Yahushai, right? Even though, I mean, it does come through Yahushai, but it's not just going to be the chariots that Yahushai comes with, but it's also going to be what? The weapons of his indignation that are also part of his army, the missiles. So they're going to be, what we seeing going on between Iran and Amalek, it's going to get to a point where it's going to drag out all these nations. As a matter of fact, there was even a news very recently, okay, today as I'm speaking to you, that you have these European nations sending out troops for possible reinforcements. They don't really go into details who they're going to be reinforcing, but let me see right now. All right. Latest news from the UK and around the world. But they deployed troops, for possible reinforcement. And you're having all these nations, that conflict is going to pretty much draw in all these nations, right? America included, because they're also involved in this war. Even though they're fighting on the side of Amalek, what they're doing is going to drag in NATO, which is going to drag in the BRICS, and the battle's just going to keep escalating and escalating, because you see, ever since I think Trump's last presidency, when Iran pulled out of the nuclear deal, well, really the U.S. pulled out of the nuclear deal first, and Iran pulled out, and from then on things have been escalating, right? People are making good on their threats. A few decades ago, the Amalek would never directly attack Iran. The Israeli will always say, they will always blame Iran, and then they would go after other nations. But this is the first time, not really the first time, but I think during the ending of Biden's presidency, that was the first time that there was a direct confrontation between these two. And we see how things are escalating. It used to be skirmishes here and there, but now they're actively trying to kill each other. And it's going to draw in all these nations in it. And I have, let me see, I have this video that I love to just listen to.
Stating that, look, we're coming to the end of this thing. That's why the scripture said redeem the times.
Right.
You got to know what time you were in, man.
Yeah. Right.
You're not supposed to be thinking.
So I think that what we are seeing is we are probably edging closer to what might become a full-fledged war in the region, even a world war where Iran is the cornerstone if it is attacked by Israeli, American, British, or military combination of all three forces in the near future.
It is very interesting how you bring Russia and China into this, basically describing the massive trade agreements between Iran and China and Russia. Certainly, if the West did try and attack Iran, it would certainly flare tempers in two of the biggest world powers, that of Russia and China. Now, moments ago, you mentioned the issue of Israel. If Israel did unilaterally attack Iran, as we know just a few days ago, it test-fired this new intercontinental missile, do you think America would have to support its closest ally? Would it have to be involved?
America supports Israel unconditionally in the diplomatic, strategic, military, financial spheres. There is a whole line of thought in America from academic Stephen Walt of Harvard University and John Mearsheimer of Chicago University that says that Zionist influence through AIPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Commission, is so strong that it has succeeded in making American foreign policy prioritize the national interest of Israel over the national interest of the United States. Now, the United States is not so much bent on war, public opinion, against Iran, but Israel is. So one can envision that Israel is a wild card. It might unilaterally attack Iran. It will then bear a counterattack, which will be ferocious, from Iran against Israel. And then the Western media will plan the whole thing out so that it will drag public opinion from America and Europe to support Israel. And what can happen after that is anybody's guess, because we don't know what Russia will do. We don't know what China will do. We don't even know what Pakistan and India will do.
Now,
Who's going to be the next president? You're going to be thinking, well, look, is the Mosai coming next month, this week, or 6 months from now? You'll be thinking, well, 10 years from now. You're talking about I'm going to go to the damn Olympics in 2012, man. Ain't going to be no damn 2012. Just play. Don't you brothers see what the hell's going on?
We're giving the time.
Do you know there's a reason why they're down there in Iraq and Afghanistan and they're getting ready, looking for a door to go into Iran?
Right.
There's a reason why that's happening, and they haven't pulled back out. They've been down there going on 4 years.
Yeah, man. Hey, and that's the confidence that you're supposed to have in the word of the Lord. You know, no matter what your circumstances is, you're supposed to understand, be fully convinced in your mind that none of these shall fail, as we're going to read later on. That none of these prophecies that are written in the book are going to fail. That's why you hear Apostle saying there ain't going to be no 2012. Not that there wasn't any 2012, but you're supposed to have that mindset. Because when you see the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yashai, putting all these chess pieces into play, you're supposed to have a single-eyed focus on prophecy and understand that whatever it is that's written off in the scriptures will come to pass. That's why Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will not tarry. Because for the longest, when this event was prophesied about, people really didn't believe it. You know, it was just, oh, you guys out here saying the same thing over and over again. But now that it's here, it seems as though that memory of this prophecy taking a long time doesn't really feel like that anymore. It doesn't feel like this prophecy took a long time to come to pass. And that's what the scriptures is talking about, you know. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all the nation, and his fury upon all their armies. He has utterly destroyed them. He has delivered them to the slaughter, right? And we've seen that chess piece put into place now. Today it's between two countries, but, you know, down the line, it's going to include the entire nations of the world. You can read about that in the book of Ezekiel, the 30th chapter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcass, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. And all the host of heavens shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all the hosts shall fall down, right? All the armies shall fall down, as the leaf faileth from the vine, and as the fig tree, and as the fallen fig from the fig tree. You know, so these missiles coming down, they hit, and they cause the heavens to be rolled together as a scroll. And this is what we're seeing here. So, verse 5 says, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. The people of the curse, right, is Esau. That's what Idumea means. The sword of the Lord Yahweh is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of the lambs and goats, and with the fat of kidneys of rams. And for the Lord Yahweh has a sacrifice in Bozrah, and this is spiritual. That spiritual sacrifice is not actually rams, right, and goats, even though the rams and goat in Babylon are also going to get what? Also going to die. But really, it symbolizes people, the people that are meant to go down into slaughter, the people who the Lord has indignation against, the people who don't get delivered up into the chariot, the people, matter of fact, whose names are not written in the book of life, in the book of Revelations, the 20th chapter, right? And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life. So the other book that was open, as opposed to the book of life, will be the book of the dead, right? It doesn't really say, but there's the book of life and there are other books. And the dead were judged out of the things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which are in it, and death and hell delivered up, the grave delivered up the dead that were in it, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, right? And whosoever was not found in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So these are going to be these rams, right? That whose fat are made with the slaughter, them whose names are not written in the book of life. These are going to be what the lambs and the goats, right? Whose fat and kidneys are what and blood is smeared upon the sword of the Lord. For the Lord Yahweh has a sacrifice in Bozrah and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea, Babylon. Right? You're gonna have this place America be completely destroyed. You're also gonna have that land of the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is the Middle East. You're gonna have that whole area, Palestine, that whole area get dissolved. That's also in a sense, that sacrifice area, because it talks about these armies being slaughtered. The destruction of these armies, all these armies of the earth, coincides with the destruction of Babylon. And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness. So all these animals out here, they're going to come down. In other words, they're going to go down. They're going to be killed along with the lambs and the goats. So in a sense, the judgment of the Lord encompasses a vast majority of people, right? And it does not discriminate. If as long as your name is not written in the book of life, you are going to go down to that slaughter. You're going to be part of that sacrifice. And through the Spirit, we, the prophet, are priests that are preparing this place for what? For a sacrifice. That's why we are to proclaim among the Gentiles, right, to go to war. That's why we're supposed to set up a banner to cause these nations to go to war. And that's why we say, "Come near, ye nations, and hearken, ye people." Because we are through the Spirit, we're speaking things into existence. We're pushing these nations to the exact positions they have to be, so that the Lord can burn the sacrifice. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. And this is going to be vengeance, man, for the things that they have done to the apple of the Lord's eye. And even though Jakes are going to be part of it, that's ultimately the reason they're going to be destroyed. Because what? Because of the blasphemy against the Lord, right? Because of what? Sin. And because of what? And because of the atrocities that are done to Jake. And the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become burning pitch. So this is what happens when the missiles start hitting. You're going to have the rivers getting dried up, all right? The streams of Edom will be filled with burning pitch. That's the lake of fire. Her land will become a blazing pitch. That's the hell that's spoken of in the Bible. Right? And even Revelation 20 says what? Death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. The ground itself, man, is going to be a lake of fire. The earth that we're on right now is going to be a lake of fire. It shall not be quenched night or day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. From generation to generation it shall lie waste. None shall pass through it forever and ever, which shows you that there is no such place as spiritual hell where you burn forever. Because this talks about what? Nations coming into war. The armies of the nations going to war. When you die, you're not an army. When you die, you're not, you don't have your gun in your hands. All right? Once your spirit leaves your body, you ain't, you don't have your vest on. You don't have your assault rifles and your explosions. When you're a spirit, you're not a carcass, right? Your body on this side is a carcass, but which shows you that it's talking about this dimension, this realm. So none shall pass through it forever and ever, because it's going to be a desolate forever. But the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it. The owl also and the raven shall dwell in it. These are all creatures of the desert, various birds of the desert. And he shall stretch upon it the line of confusion. He, Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, shall stretch upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness. So he's going to measure out, right, destruction upon this place, chaos and emptiness into Babylon. He's going to be meticulous in the judgment that he brings upon this place. They shall call the nobles thereof to the kingdom, but none shall be there, and all her princes shall be nothing, right? Because what makes a king or a prince, or a noble, are the people that they rule over, the things that they own, the land that what they possess. But if the Lord destroys all these things, then there are no kings. If the Lord destroys your kingdom, you can't call yourself a king. You can't call yourself a prince if all your servants are dead. You can't call yourself a commander-in-chief if all your armies are in flames, right? Let's read that in a different translation. Right, no nobles will be left to proclaim a king, and all princes will become nothing. Its nobles, there is no one there whom they may proclaim king, and all its officials will be nothing. So there's not going to be any kingdom, any king, or any servant. The thorns shall come up in her palaces, right? Nettles and brambles in a fortress thereof, and it shall be an habitation of dragons and a court of owls. The wild beasts of the desert also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and satire shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place to rest. So these are all creatures of the desert, right? And the dragons, these going to be animals that are conditioned to live in harsh environments. So you might even have like mutated animals in there. There shall the great owl make her nest and lay and hatch and gather under her shadow. There shall the vultures also be gathered, everyone with her mate. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate. For my mouth it has commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. Right. So the prophecies that are written off in the book, including Isaiah the 34th chapter, will come to pass. It won't fail. It will definitely come to pass. Though it tarry, wait for it. And this is some scary things, man. That's why we are set as a watchman for our nation. This is scary. The greatest fear of man. And the Lord is merciful to his elect, to have had his prophets wake up the elect, right? And he has cast the lot for them, and his hand has divided it unto them by line. They shall possess it forever, from generation to generation. They shall dwell therein. All right. So that was it on that. And this is the Most High's wrath against the nations, and we're gonna see that definitely come to pass. So, in closing, I want to end it by giving all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Recha Kodash, Shalom, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh, Brakatham, to all your Akims and Akwos, that are listening in truth and sincerity. May the blessing of blessing be upon the house. Until next time, Shalom.